Have you ever found yourself stuck mid-sentence, scrambling for the right words, only to end up with an awkward pause that makes you feel less confident in your English? Pausing while speaking is one of the most common challenges English learners face. But here's the good news. It's not a permanent problem. Hey everyone, welcome back to Fluent English Pod, where we help you train your mind to think in English and speak fluently. I'm Dave with our co-host Emma.
Hey, we're so glad you're here. Whether you're listening on your way to work, while making dinner, or just winding down for the day, thanks for spending this time with us.
Whether you are a new listener or a long-time one, we welcome you to our English podcast. Let's hear our today's topic.
In today's episode, we're going deep into the why behind those frustrating pauses, and more importantly, the how to eliminate them. From training your brain to think faster in English to practical exercises that build fluency and confidence, we'll equip you with strategies that go beyond the basics. Whether you're struggling with overthinking, vocabulary gaps, or just nervousness, this episode will give you the tools to speak smoothly, naturally, and without hesitation. Ready to transform the way you speak English? Let's dive in.
That's right. Pausing while speaking can make conversations feel awkward and less natural. But don't worry, we're here to help you overcome that. By the end of this episode, you'll have some fresh tips and exercises to help you speak more fluently and confidently.
Absolutely. So let's get started. Dave, before we jump into the solutions, let's first understand why people pause so much when speaking English. What do you think are the main reasons?
Great question, Emma. I think one of the biggest reasons is fear of making mistakes. Many learners are so worried about saying something wrong that they hesitate, and that hesitation leads to pauses. For example, imagine you're in a meeting and you want to share an idea, but you're not sure if your grammar is correct. Instead of speaking up, you stay silent, and the moment passes.
That's so true. And when you're constantly second-guessing yourself, it's hard to keep the conversation flowing. Another reason is lack of vocabulary. Sometimes learners just don't know the right word to use, so they stop mid-sentence to think about it. For instance, if you're trying to describe a beautiful sunset but can't remember the word vibrant, you might pause and say, the colors were, very bright and, strong.
Exactly. And that brings me to another reason. Overthinking. A lot of learners try to translate sentences from their native language into English, but the structures are often different, which slows them down. For example, in some languages, you might say, I to the store go. But in English, it's I go to the store. If you're translating word by word, it's going to create a lot of pauses.
Yes, overthinking is a huge fluency killer. And let's not forget about nervousness. When you're speaking with a native speaker or in a high-pressure situation, it's easy to freeze up and forget even the simplest words. I've seen this happen so many times. Someone knows the word they need, but because they're nervous, their mind goes blank.
Totally. So, to summarize, the main reasons learners pause are 1. Fear of making mistakes. 2. Lack of vocabulary. 3. Overthinking and translating. 4. Nervousness under pressure. Now that we know the problem, let's move on to the solutions. Emma, what's the first tip to reduce pauses and speak more fluently?
The first tip is to think in English. Many learners make the mistake of thinking in their native language and then translating, which creates delays. Instead, try to form your thoughts directly in English. For example, if you're at a park, don't think, the sky is blue in your native language, and then translate it. Just think, the sky is blue in English.
That's a game changer. It might feel difficult at first, but with practice, it becomes second nature. A great way to practice this is by describing your surroundings in English. For example, if you're at a cafe, think, I'm sitting at a table. There's a cup of coffee in front of me. The room is quiet.
Love that. Another tip is to use filler words. Now, I know some people think filler words are bad, but they're actually a natural part of speaking. Words like well, or you know, can give your brain a moment to think without creating an awkward silence. For example, instead of pausing and saying, I like this movie, you can say, well, I really like this movie.
Exactly. It keeps the conversation flowing. And here's another technique. Shadowing. Have you heard of this, Emma?
Of course. Shadowing is when you listen to a native speaker and repeat what they say immediately, like an echo. It's a fantastic way to practice speaking quickly and smoothly. For example, you can shadow a scene from your favorite TV show or a podcast. Just play a sentence, pause, and repeat it exactly as you hear it.
Yes. Over time, your brain will get used to speaking without hesitation. And here's one more tip. Don't aim for perfection. Many learners pause because they're trying to get every sentence perfect, but fluency is about communication, not perfection.
Absolutely. If you forget a word, try to explain it in a different way. For example, if you can't remember the word umbrella, you could say, the thing you use when it rains.
Perfect example. So, to recap, the 4 techniques to reduce pauses are: think in English, use filler words; practice shadowing; don't aim for perfection; keep talking. The first step to stop pausing is to expand your vocabulary and learn common phrases. If you don't have enough words or phrases in your mind, your brain will struggle to find the right ones, which leads to pauses. Think about it. When you're in a conversation, you don't have time to open a dictionary. You need those words and phrases ready to go.
That's so true. Instead of memorizing individual words, try learning full phrases. For example, instead of just learning the word happy, learn the phrase, I'm really happy about this. Or instead of tired, learn, I'm exhausted after a long day. These chunks of language are like shortcuts for your brain. They help you speak faster and more naturally.
Exactly. And another great way to train your brain is through active listening. The more you listen to English, the faster your brain will process it. Try listening to podcasts or watching TV shows and predict what the speaker will say next. For example, if someone says, I'm so excited because tomorrow I'm going to, you can guess they'll say something like the beach, a concert, or a meeting. This trains your brain to think ahead and respond quickly.
I love that. It's like a mental workout for your brain. And here's another fun exercise. Conversation anticipation. When you're listening to someone, try to guess their next word or phrase before they finish their sentence. For instance, if they say, I can't believe how, you might predict they'll say amazing, difficult, or beautiful this is. This exercise sharpens your ability to think on your feet.
That's a great way to train your brain to think ahead. And don't forget about imitating native speakers. Find someone whose speaking style you like, maybe a YouTuber, a podcast host, or a character from a TV show, and try to copy their speed, rhythm, and pronunciation. For example, if you love how Emma Watson speaks, listen to her interviews and mimic her tone and pacing.
Yes, imitation is one of the fastest ways to improve fluency. It's like learning to dance. You follow the steps until you can do it on your own. So, to summarize, the 4 ways to train your brain for faster speech are: 1. Learn phrases, not just single words. 2. Listen actively and predict what's coming next. 3. Practice conversation anticipation. 4. Imitate native speakers.
Emma, before moving into practical tips and exercises, shall we discuss some of the difficult words we use today?
That's a fantastic idea, Dave. Let's help our listeners expand their vocabulary in a practical way. I'll start with the word anticipation. We talked about conversation anticipation earlier. Anticipation means the act of expecting or looking forward to something. For example, you could say, I'm filled with anticipation for my vacation next week.
Perfect example. Next, let's take the word imitation. We discussed imitating native speakers to improve fluency. Imitation means copying someone's behavior, speech, or style. For example, children learn by imitation. They copy what they see and hear.
That's a great example. Now, let's tackle the word hesitation. We talked about how hesitation can lead to pauses in speaking. Hesitation means pausing or delaying because you're unsure or nervous. For example, she answered the question without hesitation. Dave, I believe that we covered all the difficult words that we used today. Move on to some practical exercises that will help you speak more fluently. Dave, what's the first exercise?
One of my favorites is the 1-minute speaking challenge. Pick a topic and speak about it for 1 full minute without stopping. Even if you make mistakes, keep going. For example, you could talk about your favorite book, your dream vacation, or even your morning routine. The key is to keep the words flowing.
That's a great one. You can start with simple topics like my favorite hobby or what I did yesterday. If 1 minute feels too long, start with 30 seconds and work your way up. And here's a pro tip: record yourself. When you listen back, you'll notice where you pause or hesitate, and that's where you can improve.
Exactly. Another great exercise is just story retelling. Listen to a short story or a podcast, and then try to retell it in your own words. This helps with both fluency and vocabulary recall. For example, listen to a 2-minute story about someone's travel adventure, and then retell it as if it happened to you.
I love that exercise. It forces you to think in English and form complete sentences. And here's another one: speed conversations. Set a timer for 2 to 3 minutes and have a fast-paced conversation with a friend, or even talk to yourself in the mirror. The goal is to respond quickly without overthinking. For example, ask yourself, "What's the best meal I've ever had?" and answer immediately.
Yes, and for those who don't have a speaking partner, you can use speech-to-text apps. Just speak into your phone and see how much it transcribes correctly. It's a great way to check your pronunciation and fluency. For example, say, "I went to the park yesterday," and see if the app understands you. If it doesn't, you know where to improve.
That's such a useful tool. So, to recap, the 4 best exercises to improve fluency are 1. The 1-minute speaking challenge. 2. Story retelling. 3. Speed conversations. 4. Using speech-to-text apps. Now, let's talk about mindset shifts to build confidence in speaking English. Dave, what's the first mindset shift that can help?
The first thing to remember is that mistakes are part of learning. Many people pause because they're afraid of saying something wrong, but mistakes are how we improve. Think about it. When a baby learns to walk, they fall 100 times before they get it right. Speaking English is the same. Every mistake is a step forward.
That's so true. Instead of thinking, "What if I make a mistake?" try thinking, "Every mistake helps me learn." The key is to keep going, even if your sentence isn't perfect. For example, if you say, "I go to the park yesterday," instead of panicking, just correct yourself. "Oh, I went to the park yesterday."
Exactly. Another mindset shift is to focus on communication, not perfection. The goal is to express your ideas, not to sound like a textbook. If people understand you, you're already successful. For example, if you're traveling and need directions, it doesn't matter if your grammar is perfect. What matters is that you get to your destination.
Right. And here's one more tip. Speak with confidence, even if you're not 100% sure. If you hesitate or doubt yourself, people will notice. But if you speak with energy and a smile, they'll focus on what you're saying, not your small mistakes. For example, instead of saying, "I think, maybe, it's good," say, "I think it's really good," with confidence.
That's such great advice. So, to build confidence. 1. Accept that mistakes help you improve. 2. Focus on communication, not perfection. 3. Speak with confidence and energy. Now let's wrap things up. Emma, what's the final action plan for our listeners?
Now it's the right time for our fun with words segment. Pick one technique or exercise from today and practice it this week. Whether it's the 1-minute speaking challenge, shadowing, or using filler words, the more you practice, the more fluent you'll become. And don't forget to comment below. With one new word or phrase you learned today, did you learn conversation anticipation, story retelling, or maybe mindset shift? Let us know.
And share your biggest challenge when speaking English. Are you struggling with overthinking, vocabulary, or nervousness? We'd love to hear from you and help you improve.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next episode.